Hello everyone, welcome back for today's update. It's actually 5 days after I last recorded and I thought I'd hop on. I haven't had any additional appointments yet, but here's where I am, let's say, emotionally. Even though I am still feeling fine, I'm finding that maybe my focus is a little off or a little more scattered, I guess. So prior to the biopsy, I kind of got back in the flow of writing and tackled a nice chunk of the book and was feeling like that momentum was going to keep going. But other things have come up. So I guess it isn't necessarily being distracted, but I've had people to tell the story to, and some of the people for the first time. And that's my priority, and taking care of myself. So there's that part. Physically, I feel fine. I'm trying to get in the sauna, as I mentioned before. I've cut my sugar. I'm doing my green drinks and trying to stay hydrated and get outside and do all that kind of good stuff. What I was surprised at is that my thinking, this is my first go at all this, is that the biopsy was quick. They were in and out. What I didn't factor in is they went deep. And in doing that, it's been a bit tender for more days than I thought it would be, and had some bruising, but that's fine. And so anyway, so that's where I guess I stand. The angst that I have been having now is more around telling those people I love, like the build up to that. And then the angst around next step, like tomorrow is my first appointment with a surgeon. So like anything that is new or unknown, sometimes we get a little angsty. I do. If we're going on a new hike someplace, I get angsty. So I know that's just part of my nature. And then add to that the significance of what this is, right? So for anybody who may be just popping on here, I've posted 3 other videos. I was recently diagnosed with breast cancer and I am in the midst of finding out. So I guess I should clarify that part. So since I left you, my doctor did expedite the referral over and all my records, as in I talked to her, the night before, and by 7:33 the next morning, all my records were over to the cancer center. So that was fantastic. I heard from them on Friday because, as I mentioned in the last video, they needed to kind of triage their team to come up with a plan, and they have done that. So they called me Friday morning, and I had videoed for you guys on Thursday morning, I think it was. So as of that Friday morning, I'm going to backtrack here in a second to Thursday, they scheduled me with my appointment with the surgeon for tomorrow, which will be Wednesday. And the reason that we waited even that amount of days is that there was still one lab result that they were awaiting, and they wanted to make sure that they gave enough time for that lab result to be in. So I have an appointment tomorrow morning, first thing at 8:15 with the surgeon, and then I don't know if I'll meet my oncologist at that point or not. Again, this is new to me, and I am not researching everything. And I'm going to stick with that for the time being. So to backtrack a day, as I last reported on this, only my kids and my Tom knew as the results came in that Wednesday night. So on Thursday, I decided, and by the way, the only other people that had known, if you watched other videos, up until that point were 4 sisters. So my sister and my partner Tom's sisters, and not any parents. So I did the first thing, which was my sister happened to be off, and I drove to her house and let her know. She handled it better than expected. I think she kind of anticipated it, and I kind of told her where I was coming from, and I think she respected that. And I think in this telling process, it's all how you present it, and that changes how other people react and respond. So we had that one done, and then I actually did via text Tom's three sisters, and they handled it extremely well and were supportive and very loving. So that was that, which brought us to Friday. After I talked to the cancer center, my sister, so lovely, told me that she would go with me to my parents, which is an hour and a half away. I wanted to tell them in person. I didn't want to call and tell them we were coming up because that would have been a red flag. So we surprised them. It was such great news, right? But the funny thing is that when I was talking, I don't know if she'll be kind of the caseworker from the cancer center or who she will be, but she was lovely. And I, in my warped sense of humor, asked her if she would go with me in a few minutes to go tell my parents. And she paused and said, I would do that for you. And I said, no, I don't expect that, but I appreciate it very much so. So that makes me feel great as to the type and kind of people that I will be walking this path with. So anyway, my sister and I had time to get up to my parents. I had more angst than even when I told my kids and how my parents would respond. So as we were on that final leg of the trip is when I started getting a little bit angsty about it. They were not home immediately when we got there. And then when they did, we needed to let them kind of get settled from groceries and all that. And then I sat and I told them, and they took it in. They related their own stories. My father informed me that I should be so lucky because when he had a biopsy done on his prostate, they took 12 samples instead of 6. We also had a recent cancer scare with him. Goodness, it was probably a year and a half, 2 years ago now. And so he's been through it recently, and I think that was helpful as well. I think it gave them a different perspective on things and gave them a modern day cancer situation to relate to, that if you have the right team around you and you get things taken care of, that the results can be just fine. So that was all good news. I was shocked and pleasantly surprised. I finished what I was saying. As I've mentioned before, I've decided to lay down some laws as I'm telling people, as far as I am going to try really hard not to dictate how other people respond to it, but at the same time, I'm going to ask them to, if they want to share things with me, to ask me if I'm in the right frame of mind to receive that, or the right state of being, or if I want to hear it. And that includes stories of other people's cancer battles, themselves or people they know, because the nature of many of us in this world is to tell our battle stories, right? To tell any battle story that we may know of that could be more, I don't want to say salacious because that's not really a word, but catastrophic in a sense, or a better story, and I don't want to hear it. And what I have learned is that it's a fine line. So I am proud of myself with the boundaries that I'm establishing, but I'm realizing that I also might give a little too much leash there before I cut it off. And so I had a couple stories that have left a little bit of mark, meaning that I know everything is set out of love and concern and all that, but if I wake up in the morning, it's the first thing I think of is reliving a story, then I let that go too far. So I've already learned a couple of those that I need to be careful of. But back to my parents, they handled it like troopers. They've been nothing but supportive. It was so shocking that I called them later that night just to check on them, and then I was in the midst of something else. So then I called the next morning and had a nice conversation with them, and they were fantastic. They are opting not to tell a lot of people until we know more. I have drawn the line again on, I'm asking everybody not to get on the phone. It's not necessarily as gossip, but it's news. Oh my goodness, our little Tina has cancer. Oh, please, I would like people to pray for me, that's fine, but do you know what I mean? I don't want the worry energy because that's not going to help me. I don't want that kind of heavy energy on me. So I'm asking, and I asked my parents, I'm like, I want you to be able to share with somebody so you can talk to somebody about it. But what I don't want is just the calls to go out to people that I don't necessarily have a close relationship to, just for it to be news and for that energy to swirl back to me. Does that make sense? So those are the boundaries that I'm laying down, and I'm emphasizing them with every single person that I've told. Granted, I haven't told that many people, but once you tell, I think I've told 9 people thus far, and maybe more, 11 people. And once you tell those 11 people, and even if each of those tells just their kids or just their, households or just their best friends, the bubble starts getting out. And so I wanted to be very, very clear with this initial circle that I'm good, and I don't want that energy. I don't want to hear gruesome stories or traumatic stories. I am going to try to keep my energy as calm and clear as it can be, and because this is my life. And I think everybody's getting the point. I'm saying it with a smile. I'm saying I'm okay. And so that part's gone really well. Sunday, we told my partner Tom's parents, and they handled it extremely well as well. And then, since then, I kind of forget that I've got this thing in me that needs to come out. But today, being the day before I go in to visit with a surgeon, it's starting to become a little bit more real, and I'm finding that my focus is not quite up to par today to get much stuff done, unfortunately. So do you know what I'm doing today? I am clearing, excuse my language, well, I'm not going to say it because I don't know how YouTube likes that. I'm clearing the SHIT out. So anything that has been on my to-do list that I have put has just kept continuing because I didn't want to deal with it, or I didn't want to, I don't know, it wasn't fun, or it wasn't what I wanted to do. And it's more personal things, quite honestly. I am tackling them today. I am crossing them off, including doing a FAFSA thing for one of my kids and getting it off. I want light. I want calm. Look at this light coming through. And so that's because I was having a hard time focusing. I decided to focus on some of that stuff. But anyway, I think that's it for today. This is kind of where I am. I just wanted to share with you. Saturday I spent the day with this household. We went out to brunch. We went and bought new pickleball shoes for some of us, so we can all start playing more pickleball. And we just spent time together, and that's what I wanted for the weekend more than anything. And now that I've told, my circle got a little bit bigger just in telling the 4 parents. That's all I needed. I know eventually I need to tell people in my community here, but for now, I've told my people, and that kind of eases my heart just a little bit of that angst. And then after tomorrow's results or tomorrow's discussion and a game plan is known, I'll probably expand that outward a little bit so that if my kids want to talk to friends here in the community, I can just give a heads up to some of their parents as well, so that they know what their child may be hearing and feeling. And that's it. This went way longer than I anticipated. I hope that's okay. And I will keep you posted. I'll be back on after I can sit with what happens tomorrow, and I'll keep you informed.